Yeah, he actually started back when we were in high school.
Quite a few.
Home
Yeah.
for
I was clicking on the little blue box and it wasn't
high school like JV games, freshman. But shit, and then he finally worked out. Then he got D3, and they got up Big Ten.
Yeah, let me get you those.
Time you do the regular league games?
No.
He does all that. Yeah. Actually, a lot of those guys too. David?
No, they don't.
Ready?
Rock and roll, buddy.
Everybody ready? We're going to start Judiciary Public Safety Subcommittee. Can I get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Samasco,
Present.
Commissioner Baldwin, Commissioner Beeden,
Present.
Commissioner Bohm,
Here.
Commissioner Trello,
Present.
Commissioner Rushing,
Here.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch.
Here. Can we please all stand for Pledge Allegiance? Can I get a motion for the agenda?
So I have a question here. So we have the Second Amendment resolution listed under conceptual initiatives. Are we able to move that to an action item and make that new business A1? Can we do that? Okay. So I'm going to make a motion that we amend the agenda to take the Second Amendment resolution for final action and put it on in new business for A1.
Want final action?
Second.
Final action tonight, Joe?
Yes.
Any other questions or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on to citizens to be heard. Oh,
I'll make a motion to accept the amended agenda.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on to citizens wishing to be heard. John Daly.
So as we said the Pledge of Allegiance, we decreed that it was liberty and justice for all, and I believe that our Second Amendment rights are very important to uphold that we are able to go ahead and have liberty and justice because of the right to bear arms, and I believe that's very important for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane Hewlett.
Hi, thank you. My name is Diane Hewlett. Thank you for this time to speak. And basically, I just want to say very quickly, I do support the resolution. My ask is that you would stand for these particular values against government overreach, to defend our rights and liberty, to not restrict the rights of St. Clair residents, and for the right to keep and bear arms, to defend the Second Amendment, and as I have in these books right here, very powerful books, of course with the Michigan Constitution as well, and to be in solidarity with the people, and that you would spend public funds with integrity. My final request is that you recommit to the oath that you took to defend the Constitution when you took office, okay? Which I believe you will. So, okay, thank you so much.
Dave Allison.
Good evening, everyone. Hey, came here this evening. It's kind of interesting. Today's December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, right? And for us, a little, you know, we remember what that represents. We were drawn into a battle where we were taken across seas to foreign lands to fight for other people's freedoms. But that's because we've always stood for freedom in this country. I actually find it kind of almost insulting that I have to come here and ask our leadership to uphold what they've already taken an oath to protect, right, our Constitution. And our Second Amendment wasn't given to us by these folks up here, right? It was given to us by our Creator. And so all we're asking is that they really uphold the oath that they took, and defend our constitutional rights, our unalienable rights that were given to us by God. The Constitution wasn't there to protect the people, it was there to control the government from overreach. So lastly, I'd like to say that God has given us this right. And in Proverbs it talks about if we reject the truth that God has given us, that he says that when your destruction comes like a whirlwind, when you're overtaken, because you did not honor the truth, God says he's going to laugh at us. And we can see we've denied those truths. We've strayed away from those things. And you can see in our society, and now we've just got to remind our leaders of the basic rights that were given to us by God. And I'm sure that the folks have already taken an oath, and I believe that they will stand up as the citizens and protect that oath they've taken to. Thank you.
Barry Mudridge.
Hello. Hold my hand a Constitution with the amendments. And what I decided to do was look at what our founding fathers, the writers of that document, gave us, just in the words that they selected. I got out a Merriam-Webster New International Dictionary, and starting with A, and then the next word is well, and what well is defined as in good, proper manner, justified aptitude or skill, hence in accordance with an occasion. The next word, a well-regulated, regulated meaning past tense, past parts of regulate, uniformity and discipline. A well-regulated militia, a body of citizens enrolled as a regular military force for periodic instruction, discipline or drill, which it does state in that dictionary, a National Guard. The next sentence, while being in that very same sentence, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right, the used in this term, I'm not a big English major, but formerly used with abstract nouns, and the word right, an adverb, according to the right, conforming to the standard of justice and duty, righteously. And the end of that sentence, the right of the people, citizens of the United States as written in our Constitution. So a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and preserve, to keep meaning to preserve or maintain, and bear meaning to possess or carry, arms. Arms as a noun, a weapon of offense or defense, an instrument of warfare. But self-defense, God-given self-defense, that's the way it was intendedly written. Another comma, shall, which is a promise or a command, not be.
I'm gonna have to, you got 3 minutes, so
Okay.
wrap it up, please.
Not be infringed, meaning to destroy, defeat, or refute, or impair, or weaken, to violate, or neglect. Thank you.
Carol Miller.
Good evening, everybody. I wanted to show how disappointed I am in two people on this board. Firstly, she's not here, Commissioner Baldwin. To recap, the October 19, 2023 Board of Commissioner meeting, she was talked to by a very passionate young woman named Sarah. She, along with a packed room of constituents, were speaking out against the solar farm initiative in her district. I found it very disrespectful and unbecoming of a professional for her to smirk while she took the time to come here and speak. She also noted that she did not have minutes for a meeting that involved the solar fields for over a year. I could care less what her capacity was at the time, but as a supervisor of that township at the time, one of her duties is to maintain compliancy in all areas, including the Open Meetings Act of Michigan. While many of us in the gallery watched her tip her head down and smirk and chuckle, we were shocked that she would act like this as a commissioner. As far as her stating the kickback she received and was accused of, I said, I knew nothing about that, nor did care. I don't even know why she brought that up. I have brought up many things that were directed at people, especially Ms. Hepting. She maintains composure and continues to speak kindly to me, and that's what a professional does. Instead of addressing me after I could not give a rebuttal, she should have openly apologized to Ms. Beebe as well as the constituents in the gallery and all those people watching live stream, but instead she made excuses. Mr. Fletcher, I want to quote you from the November 2nd board meeting. Quote, "I'm going to feel bad if I don't say this, but," so I'm going to say it, sometimes you have a case of people add 2 and 2 together and they be coming up with 7. And that's what just happened to Commissioner Baldwin. She got blasted for something that is just completely false, unquote. First of all, if you think the people of this county are stupid, think again. Your analogy to me was so wrong and demeaning. I can do calculus, and I have worked with physics in my career. You may have the letters JD after your name and live in $1 million home, but I have probably more schooling and initials behind my name. I am not above anybody else, as you think you are. Secondly, Mr. Fletcher, I will quote you again from the last board meeting that I attended. Quote, "She didn't smirk at anybody. She looked down and smiled, and I looked at her and she was smiling," unquote. Again, you said you looked at her. What I would like to know, Mr. Fletcher, where were you sitting at the October 19th meeting? It sure was not in this room. You were absent at that meeting. You lied. You openly lied to all the people in the gallery and all the constituents of this county. I have no idea why you're defending an unprofessional act with yet causing another one. You have demeaned me. You've also violated my First Amendment rights under the Constitution of the United States. The only words I want to hear from both of you are publicly apologizing for the acts of the people of this county that you
Okay,
did.
you need to wrap it up real quick,
Thank you.
please.
If you cannot do that, then you both need to look at what you're doing and resign. The other members of this board should be ashamed of both of how you have acted. You don't work for us.
Wrap it up, please.
We don't work for you, you work for us.
Charles Anter.
Hello, thank you. I'm a gun owner and I support the Second Amendment right. And I've actually been in the National Archives and seen the original draft of the Constitution with things crossed out and moved all around. But I do not support this Second Amendment resolution. The only way they want to remove guns from somebody is if a judge deems it necessary. You can't just, throw a piece of bread like it said in the paper at somebody and have your guns taken away. So, if, an amendment like this would stop somebody from, like the person in Maine that just created that mass shooting, from having their guns taken away when somebody called and said they were having mental health issues. So, I'm a gun owner, I support the Second Amendment, but I do not support this resolution. So, thank you, and thank you for your service.
Tim Daniels.
Hello, it's Tim Daniels. I've been involved with Port Huron now for about 15 years, and I am probably in a really fortunate position in which that I'm in the gun business. I'm an FFL. I maintain 2 licenses. I have met pretty much every single branch of law enforcement, from ATF agents to state police, county, and multiple city municipalities. And in those 15 years, I've met a lot of people that are really, truly kind people, some of which I go fishing with. These people are transparent. They're not smug, and they're kind. These people have absolutely nothing to fear from. But it concerns me that we take into account or try to create new laws when the firearms that we have already are really not a problem. There was originally a court case just a couple of months ago in California. And there was a judge who did the statistics on firearms. And he calculated that there was 24,400,000 AR-15s in this country. The ones that were used in homicide were .0000014. That is the percentage of AR firearms that were used in a crime in this country. So that means the other 99.999985 were used legally. So the idea that we try to develop more laws and regulations as it relates to preventing a crime from happening is statistically an anomaly. It's not really addressing what the real issue is. You know, the real issue is that, you know, lack of mental health. Some of these judges, whoever they is, some of these people that need help keep on getting out. And you say, well, I'm going to make sure we deny them access to an item. When somebody just mentioned about the Connecticut shooting, I believe, right on that window in the bowling alley, they had a great big sticker to protect them. It said, no firearms. Yet all those people got killed. That ordinance didn't work. Symbols and all this kind of stuff doesn't mean anything. Good quality people doing the right thing does. Quickly, a couple of years ago, we had a customer come to our store. I was a little nervous about him. I reached out to some friends of mine. They looked into him. It got taken care of. And, you know, again, there was no laws, no nothing. It was just good people looking out for the good people. I hope you guys do the same. Good people don't need more laws. Thank you.
Dawn Falk.
Good evening. Thank you to Commissioner Rushing for introducing the 2A sanctuary resolution tonight. It's obviously very much needed at this time, with Lansing pushing through many unconstitutional red flag laws this year. I would bet that many of those laws will be overturned in court in the future due to their unconstitutionality. Lawsuits are very effective, right? This resolution, along with the 53 other counties here in Michigan, have similar 2A sanctuary resolutions on the books. This should send a very strong message to Lansing. The majority of us sitting here in the audience tonight believe that Lansing and DC have become very tyrannical against its own citizens. Our founders felt that citizens should be able to protect themselves against a tyrannical federal government and any other threat to their well-being, personal freedom, or property. The Second Amendment today remains fundamental to protecting the laws of protect the rights of law-abiding gun owners. I truly do not believe for 1 second that these laws will affect the criminals. They could care less about red flag laws or, for that matter, any other gun laws. These laws will only potentially throttle the vast majority of the law-abiding gun owners. Being a 2A sanctuary county will send a strong message to both the state and federal representatives that their citizens will not support those who violate their rights and attempt to dismantle the Second Amendment. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land, regardless of laws passed by state constitutions, state laws, or regulations. If another law or regulation conflicts with the U.S. Constitution or lessens the rights or freedoms of a person guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, it's void and unenforceable. I would categorize all the new red flag laws passed this year in Lansing as void and unenforceable because they conflict with the U.S. Constitution. I would also like to remind our commissioners that they all took an oath to support the U.S. Constitution. All this resolution is doing is simply reaffirming our constitutional rights afforded to us as American citizens. The right to defend ourselves against a tyrannical federal government and any threat to our well-being, personal freedom, and property. Yet Lansing knowingly passed these illegal laws. Thank you again, Commissioner Rushing, for your 2A sanctuary resolution. I hope the other commissioners do their constitutional duty and support this resolution. Thank you, commissioners, for holding the line for St. Clair County and its residents. We're all in this mess together, and we need to work as a community to come together and right this ship. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to screw this name up. Linda. That's it.
Delegate of Port Huron, number 7, and I just love the Michigan Constitution. I just want to read the lovely preamble. We, the people of the state of Michigan, grateful to Almighty God for the blessings of freedom and earnestly desiring to secure these blessings undiminished to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution. And then I will move on to Article 1, Section 6, Every person has a right to keep and bear arms for the defense of himself and the state. So mine is sweet and simple. I'm here today to support Mr. Rushmore's proposal to have St. Clair County become a sanctuary county for the right to bear arms. Thank you.
Connor Allen.
I'd just like to remind everyone your oath of office. I will faithfully execute the office which I'm about to serve from foreign and domestic. I came to tell you the importance and I support this resolution introduced by Dave Rushing. Our right to bear arms is important because when the British in the Revolutionary War quartered in people's homes, the American people have the right to defend themselves. They broke an unalienable right. The right to bear arms is not to be infringed. It is our protection from criminals and tyranny. Tyranny from the state. Stalin, Hitler took the guns, unable for its own people to defend themselves. Please pass this resolution. It will show that you care about us and you recognize our God-given rights. I know that resolutions are not laws. It just shows us that you care for the American people and of the St. Clair County area. At the last board meeting, when Livingston County was declared a constitutional area, I spoke to this board begging to create a stronger resolution. Now it finally is here. I encourage you to pass it. And please say yes to it. And make sure that you care about us. We are a constitutional republic. You serve them and you serve only to them. Do you understand? Or else, if you don't vote yes on this bill, resign today in disgrace. That's all I have to say.
Mike Grover.
Hi, my name is Mike Grover. Excuse me, I got a little bit of a cold. I live in China Township and I'm a precinct delegate as well as the vice chair of Congressional District 9. I'm here to speak on the proposed Second Amendment resolution. We the people have had enough of the tyranny we live in with today, and we need our guns. Subvert the media, it's done. Subvert education, it's done. Glorify homosexuality, it's done. Take away our right to bear arms, it's never going to happen. We and you need to do everything in your power to protect us from the heavy hand of the government. It is your duty to interpose on our behalf, to step into the gap between tyranny and our inalienable rights that are provided to us by the Constitution and Almighty Father himself. Please approve moving this resolution forward and protect us from tyranny, and then let's get started on making St. Clair County a constitutional county. Thank you.
Gary Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. I'm former state rep Gary Eisen of the old 81st District. My first term, I actually presented a resolution to the county board because I wanted St. Clair County to take the lead on this. We would have been the first county in the state to develop a Second Amendment resolution. And somewhere in there, the ball got dropped. But I'm glad Mr. Rushing's picking it up again and hold on to that ball pretty good. Now, there was an article in the Port Huron Times-Herald that mentioned me. And the article wasn't all true. First, they said there wasn't a resolution entered at the state level. Well, that's false. I entered it at the state level. HR 227. It got voted out of committee, it got voted off the floor, and it passed. Okay, so I don't know what she was talking about on that one. She also said these resolutions are against gun safety. They're not against gun safety. Every gun owner I know is for gun safety. It's about unconstitutional laws that restrict your guns. Okay, that's what it's about. It's standing up for that right. Right? And then it ended up with my resolution had something to do with the militia and supporting, that's all false too. So I just have to take it with the Times Herald. Hopefully nobody took that article too seriously, because they have a really good habit of really anything I do, they distort and throw out of proportion. So I just want to say that, again, I want to introduce this back in my first term if I didn't believe in it. I think it's the right thing to do, and I hope it goes all the way, and I want to thank you guys. Thank you.
Tricia Jones.
Sorry, I didn't actually want to speak because I'm also fighting a cold, but I was just here to support the resolution. I think a lot of people sometimes get confused. This resolution isn't another law. It's just basically a statement that they're in support of following the Constitution, wanting all of our officials to do that. I'm in support of that. Thank you for doing this. Keep it short and sweet. Thank you.
Jim Wire.
It's ironic, today is Pearl Harbor Day. And we're talking about guns. And we're talking about support and protection of our liberties. 82 years ago, they attacked us. We've been under attack every day since. Not with guns, not with bombs, not with torpedoes. But when you think about the organizations that show up in everyday newspapers, that have words like Soros, Gates, FBI, CIA, DOJ, they all are looking for another way to take away our rights. And they do it little by little. It's not a shot in the arm. It's not a shot in the head. It's done with a million cuts. Day after day after day, somebody proposes something that's supposed to take away another right. And sometimes they win, and sometimes they lose. But this is not a country of gay people. And yet, less than 1% has made it so that we end up flying flags on national buildings. What? What? That is just so obscene because it's so untrue. We allow people to do their own thing. We do it because we have the right to do it, and they have the right to do what they do. But when all is said and done, the only reason they have these rights is because they were created for us. And now we have to protect them. And we have to protect them every day. So we're at war. We're not at war with guns, we're at war with words. And we have to be careful on how we use them. But we have to use them. We have to have that conversation every day. That we are a free people. And we expect to be treated that way. And when that stops happening, some of those guns will come out of those cabinets. So remember that it's Pearl Harbor Day. Celebrate the fact that at the time we had a military that was willing to fight for us. With all those 1,000 cuts, do we have a military today that will fight for us? It's a good question. Thank you.
Kevin Watkins.
Good evening. Welcome, commissioners. I'm here today because I support wholly the First Amendment. First, hello to all of you, and I have to acknowledge my commissioner, Mr. Rushmore. That's awesome. I can't wait to pass that around. I just want to, then I'm here just to mention, I'm speaking up for the government because we always remember that if a hurricane or tornado came through, we were looking for FEMA to save us. Speaking of the Second Amendment, yeah, I support that. I support your resolution. But what I more so support is being responsible with guns. Because when I think of Sandy Hook, it just always breaks my heart about that situation when we're dealing with guns. But I'm going to put a different take on this people may have thought of, or I'm thinking of it this way with myself, but in regards to, where the right to bear arms. I know back in the Revolutionary War, when Paul Revere came and said the British are coming, they had pitchforks. And you look at us now, is that with that we bear arms, the United States is one reason why that no other foreign countrymen would try to come to our country to attack us, because we have two militaries. We have our military, and then we have our civilian military. And that civilian military is very well armed. So trust me, they know that. So, but that being said, that we must support that Second Amendment where people can bear arms. Just think, example, with Ukraine, that the last minute they were scrambling trying to train people, their citizens to use weapons to protect themselves against the Russians. We won't need any training. So, in that fact, people should think about that. I know it's disheartening when they say people use guns irresponsible, but think about in the big picture that how more protected we are when we use our guns responsibly. So just want to make that note, and everyone have a happy holiday.
Vicki Blackburn.
Hi, good evening. I'm also here to talk about the Second Amendment, and we've all had some robust conversations on a lot of different issues, and what I've come to realize is that we all come with a good heart, I think, and we all come with our own research, we all come with our own projections on what something can look like. So I come to you respectfully, and I would like to talk about the resolution and the Second Amendment rights. What I've noticed in having conversations or animated debates with people is that sometimes not everybody can see that two things can be true at the same time. I wholeheartedly support the Second Amendment. I wholeheartedly support the Constitution of this great United States. However, I also support red flag laws. And the reason for that is, as an educator, we know that the children are terrified to go to school. They have to have extra security at the door. A lot of money's been spent on that. The next thing is, what else do we have to do to keep them safe? And it's, hide, run, fight, and all of that these children have drilled into them. So my question is, if you had, say, a teenage child, 14 years old, and that young man or woman was having hallucinations that were telling that child to kill himself or herself and other people, would you want to be able to go to someone and say, I'm concerned my child or my husband is a danger to his or herself and others. And in that case, I believe the red flag laws could be something that would be a resource that could be used on a very selective basis. I don't believe that the people here that are talking about their own guns are going to do a mass shooting, but we do know that we're desensitized to mass shootings happening every single day. And if people do decide to go forward with this resolution, which I imagine it'll go through, it's widely supported in a conservative area, I get that. So what I would say is that I understand the resolution is not legally binding, and I also feel that if we're going to do that, then we have to be very vigilant as a community to put dollars into mental health, juvenile justice, and domestic violence. So with that, I thank you for your time, and it's very nice to be able to learn how to have a respectful conversation when we may not always necessarily agree. Thank you very much.
All right, moving on. We have no updates. We've moved the conceptual initiative to A1. No old business. We're moving on to A1A, Second Amendment resolution.
I would make that motion, but I would make the motion for final action.
Support?
Questions?
I guess just a couple little comments. So I don't think you were here, Dave, when we had, so 4 years ago, we addressed this issue. Gary Eisen brought this before the board. We passed a Second Amendment resolution at that time. And at that time, we probably had 6 different versions of Second Amendments and you know, meeting with all the different groups, spent a lot of time on it. It wasn't, one thing I will say was the inconsistency was consistent, because this group had their own resolution. Oh, these guys' resolutions are horrible over here, and this group's, you know, bad, so on and so forth. But I think this work, I know Dave and I know Steve, you guys did some work on this. I did send it to the sheriff. I had it to the prosecutor for review. I think it was, some comments were made earlier. This is a statement. We can't tell the sheriff what to do. We can't tell the prosecutor what to do. But I full-heartedly support it, and those are my comments.
All right. Anybody else? Steve?
I think as a legal document, it's the most well-written legal document I've seen in a long time. I don't know what this. No, I support it. I do support it. Dave introduced this several years ago. I was off the board, and I helped him then. Gary Eisen was representative. It didn't pass. The board's different. I provided Dave a map that was some of the things I ran across, which showed, quite frankly, it was people can differ on opinions, but as someone said here, we need to be able to discuss our feelings and our opinions, and the board can make statements if we feel it appropriate. I think it is appropriate to show support with the other states and what Dave tried to do a couple of years ago, and it just happens to be where I come from, so I'm going to support it.
Anyone else?
I've got a little bit to say.
Okay.
If I could. And there were some current concerns, and I will start off with prosecuting Mike Wendland. He forwarded a letter to all the county commissioners after Jeff Bohm forwarded it to him. And his response said that this is a political statement. Most definitely it is, and almost every resolution is exactly that, a political statement on how we feel and how we stand on who we represent. And in the wording of this, Mike Wendland almost duplicated the exact wording in this resolution. So I appreciate that he did do that in his response to it. And that's all this is stating, for the prosecuting attorneys to do their job, and they have the discretion to do that job. They have the sole discretion to do that as a prosecuting attorney, and that's pretty much what he said in the response to us. I did talk to Matt King, the second part of this, and it's in here also in regards to the sheriff, and same thing. We expect him to do his job as the sheriff. We are not going to restrict it, and that's in here also. The county commissioners will not restrict the prosecuting attorney or give them any instructions on how to do their job, or a county sheriff, and that's in here. This is very well written. The final part of it is that it addresses any potential funds that may be spent that may take our rights away as the Second Amendment for all of us. And if we had a potential, somebody came in here that supported the red flag laws, something that I may find unconstitutional on a particular red flag laws. Not all red flag laws are bad. There are some that are unconstitutional, and I would not support any monies being spent to have a group come here that would potentially take the guns away of the residents. So that's why that's in there. This is not going to infringe any services or monies that would go to the county sheriff. So that was his concern. But if we did happen to have a sheriff here, and I was county commissioner that took the other side, and he said he would want money, or she, whoever potentially be, then I would address it at that time. Matt King is not that person. I fully support Matt King. I'm going to close with, we had a GOP meeting, and Jamie Green, I contacted her, my state rep, and she gave us an awful lot of assistance with the laws that were forwarded and signed by the governor that I believe are unconstitutional, the latest ones. So she did assist on this. She is on record and wanted me to, that I could say publicly she's on record. She supports this resolution. Jada Boyer, same thing, very strongly supports this resolution. Andrew Beeler supports this resolution, and also our state senator Dan Lauer supports this. So I wanted to bring that up, that the people we have in Lansing that represent us all support this resolution as it is written. So I guess that's about all I have to say.
Anyone else? Hearing none, this is for final action.
Could I ask for a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Samasco?
Yes.
Commissioner Beeden?
No.
Commissioner Bohm?
Yes.
Commissioner Trello?
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch?
Yes. Motion passes.
David, do you want to take a 5-minute break? So for the ones that want to leave, and I mean, you're more than welcome to hang out and listen to the rest of it, but if you, want to
Just
take
let
a
them,
quick
anyone
break?
wishes to leave is free to do so. We can continue.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to the next, for year-end St. Clair County mental health agreement with Michigan Drug Court.
Make a motion, send it to full board.
Support. Beeden.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Sheriff contract for Charter Township, Port Huron.
Make a motion to send that to the full board.
Support.
Motion and support, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Contract request for animal control feasibility study.
C. Item C.
Oh, sheriff's contract for China Charter Township.
Make a motion, send that to the full board.
Support.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now, contract approval request for animal control feasibility study.
Make a motion to send that to the full board.
Support.
Motion support. Any questions on that?
Just one quick comment. Boy, I don't know how many years ago this was. We went on a little tour of multiple animal shelters, I guess at the time, to look at some different stuff. We went to Washtenaw County, went to Genesee, we were down to Macomb. Where else? We were at Flint. And at the time, everybody always said how horrible our animal shelter was and the facilities, so on and so forth. And this is, God, I don't know, let's call it 10 years ago. Compared to the other ones, we weren't that bad. Now, I was just at the Macomb County State of the County last night, and one of the things that they're building, that they're doing down there is they're working on building a state-of-the-art animal facility down there. And I'm really, I guess it's amazing how in the last 30 years, how people's animals, pets, you see commercials on TVs, you see a lot of those different things. And I know we have some issues out at our animal shelter, Carrie. I know you've been out there helping adoption, so on and so forth. The intent of this is to take a look at the facilities, correct, to make some recommendations on what we do.
So, do you want me to?
Yeah.
So we have an opportunity right now because the county does have a vacant facility currently. So this.
What kind of facility, Carrie? I missed it.
It's our day treatment night
Okay.
watch building. The court has moved out of that and moved the programming into the juvenile center side of the intervention center.
I just didn't hear it.
Oh, yep. So that facility is vacant. It's larger than our current facility, and it also has a significant amount of land, which would allow for adequate outdoor space. You know, our current facility, as Commissioner Bohm alluded to, I mean, yes, I think we do a good job with what we have. However, we have outgrown it. Our kennel space is quite small. We don't have the ability to segregate court holds when they come in. I know we frequently hear people want to know why can't they walk through. Well, we have a facility full of live evidence, so we can't really have people walking through when we have live evidence there. So, you know, just the cages are small, the electrical system can't handle all the equipment that we need to run. We're unable to run a commercial washer and dryer, and we do about 30 loads of laundry per day. So there's just a lot of challenges there. So the hope is looking at this new, our vacated day treatment facility to see if it's feasible to retrofit that, if it's cost effective. You know, the study may come back that it doesn't make sense, but it would also help the county reduce their footprint because we would, you know, be able to sell our old facility or take that off of our rolls as well.
Question, Carrie? What about the health department building? That's going to be coming up. Would they look at other buildings or just
So
feasibility study?
our current animal control building is around 5,000 square feet, and the health department building being the tri-level, I think with all of the correct drainage and airflow we would need in order to house the animals. And that building is an aging building with a lot of problems as well, so I think the amount of money to get that up to code. The day treatment building is a newer facility. It has, you know, it operated a commercial kitchen, so I'm very hopeful that it's got some good potential.
That was built sometime after the jail, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And the health department was built back probably
In
about
the
the time
50s?
I was born. Okay.
Wait a minute, I was built in the 50s.
It's not as old as Dave Rushing. I'll make a record of that. I have no, or Dave Rushmore, or whatever his name is.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on to 2024 letter of agreement with Sacred Heart Rehabilitation for RSAT.
Motion to send that to the full board.
Second.
Any questions?
Just, I would say that Sacred Heart does a great job. I've been around this county a long time, and I have clients that go through Sacred Heart, and I've seen it through the prosecutor's office. And it's a good facility, and they have a lot of programming. So, that's all.
Anyone else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on to a letter of agreement with Region 10 for RSAT prevention services for inmates.
Make a motion to move that to full board?
Support.
You just skip over F?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll go back to that one. Let's do this one then.
Right, we're on G.
Support. I'll support.
Well, I'm doing all the RSAT together.
I never liked hopscotch.
You know, why? RSAT is RSAT.
I got you.
Any other questions on the RSAT proposal? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving back up to contract approval request for legal services for case data management system.
Motion to send to full board.
Support.
Any questions?
Yes, I have one for Carrie. Is this above and beyond what we're currently doing?
Actually, Mr. Boucher is here, and he can address the agenda item.
All right. That's, well, it's 34,000, I believe, 34,550, just if it's something that we're currently doing.
No, Commissioner Rushing, currently what we are doing is we are using a system called Defender Data. We've been using it since our inception.
Can you talk into the mic?
Sorry, you can't hear me?
That's better, Mike, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've been using that since 2020. When we first came on board, a lot of public defenders' offices in the state were using it. Shortly after coming on board, many of those same offices started abandoning it. The system we are proposing to use
is going to be better suited because now we're going to have enhanced reporting requirements to the state. So it will be able to consolidate data, provide metrics for us so we can gauge the job we're doing against other offices. The big upfront cost for us on this is the onboarding, which is about $29,000, but the state will pay it. There will be no obligation to the county citizens. And then the annual fees will be fairly comparable. They'll be right around $9,000 or $10,000 a year if I'm not mistaken. So.
I followed all that, but I was just wondering, so, okay.
Anyone else?
I would just say that, you know, Mr. Boucher, like Mr. Wendling, run a couple of the biggest law offices in the county. Technology drives a lot of efficiencies, and when you're dealing with so many cases and the flow of information and the speed that's needed these days, I would support it. I agree with what you're telling us.
Anyone else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Contract agreement with Ottawa County Juvenile Detention Center, bed rental.
Motion send it full board.
Got a question for Carrie.
Do I get support?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Motion and support. Questions?
It's a question for Carrie. So, a little history on this. We used to house the juveniles here in St. Clair County ourselves. Those numbers went in the toilet, and we contracted out with Macomb County. Do we still have some of the juveniles with Macomb, or are we shifting them now to Ottawa, or are we doing a joint situation?
I believe it is a joint situation. We have some space at Macomb. However, if we need additional space, or depending on the individual and the type of services they need, they may go to a different facility.
Because I think Macomb only gave us X amount of slots, if I wasn't mistaken. Okay, very good.
A question on that. Carrie, we would be primarily with Judge Brown on this, his court.
Yes, I believe so.
Is his staff, or is he in line with this recommendation? Is anyone, any information on his participation or interest in this?
This proposal actually came from the courts. This is the court's proposal.
Our court, not state court administrator. This is St. Clair County court proposal.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so we can assume the judges support this. That's my assumption.
Yeah, I mean, the proposal comes from the court administrator, so I think it's a safe assumption that he has the judge's support.
Thank you.
Anything else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Last one is lease addendum with Wayden Enterprises LLC.
Motion send that to full board.
Support?
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have no other judiciary public safety matters. Motion to receive and file packets.
So moved.
Support?
Adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Sorry, I didn't call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjournment.
Motion to adjourn. Support?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See what packet we're in. It's been a long time since I've had this much paper. This time I'd like to call to order the committee, the Human Services Committee. If the clerk will take the roll, please.
Commissioner Samasco,
Present.
Commissioner Baldwin, Commissioner Bohm,
Here.
Commissioner Torello,
Here.
Commissioner Rushing,
Here.
Commissioner Vandenbach.
Here.
Commissioner Beatty.
Present. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any citizens wishing to be heard tonight? Seeing none. Any updates from the commissioners?
Not on this agenda, no.
Seeing none. Any conceptual initiatives tonight? No old business. Moving on to new business. 7A, the Commission on Aging appointment.
Make a motion to send it to full board.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, the Commission on Aging 2024 and 2025 service contracts.
Make a motion to send that to the full board.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Seeing no other human services matters tonight, item 9, information only.
Make a motion to receive and file the Health Department's November points of interest.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll accept a motion to receive and file packets.
Motion.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Support? All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
At this time, I'd like to call the Board of Commissioners Environmental Public Works Committee meeting to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Samasco,
Present.
Commissioner Baldwin, Commissioner Beeden,
Present?
Commissioner Bohm,
Here.
Commissioner Rushing,
Here.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch.
Here.
Commissioner Terrell.
Here. Moving on to additions, deletions, and changes to the agenda. Are there any
Make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Citizens to be heard tonight. We do have a couple of them. And forgive me if I get this wrong. Robert Felix? Whew, got it right. Thank you.
Commissioners and County Controller, thank you for giving me the time to speak with you this evening. I wish to speak to you about the Smith Creek landfill and the odors that the community has been receiving. Before I really get going, I just want to comment. Listening to the Second Amendment people talking about life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, the Constitution, maybe it's a leap, but I think people can all go there. The people of Smith Creek are trying to pursue happiness. And it's hard to do when you have a rotten egg odor from a septic bioreactor at the landfill spewing fumes into the air. That's all I'm going to say about that, because I know last month there were plenty of the citizens here to talk about that. I appreciate they had a chance to talk to you. What I want to cover, let me introduce myself. I'm Robert Felix. I'm a retired process and environmental engineer with 40 years experience in the field. And I've lived 1.5 miles from the landfill for 33 years. I've been researching the landfill septic bioreactor since 2014, and I would like to offer you a written presentation based on my experience and the 9 years of research I have done on the bioreactor project. My hope is that this presentation helps the board better understand the landfill bioreactor issues. The presentation is set up on a Google Drive in a question-answer format with lettered attachments provided in a separate folder. At this point, and with the commissioner's permission, I would like to pass out copies of the presentation to all commissioners, minus the attachments because of size constraints. The Google Drive link to the presentation, as well as accompanying attachments, is on the document you will receive. My contact information is also included, and I have emailed the link to the presentation to all commissioners earlier this afternoon. If you have any questions or need clarification or have corrections, please reach out to me. As a side note, after a significant amount of money approved recently and all the activity with corrective actions performed at the landfill, last night I noticed an odor release of hydrogen sulfide from the landfill from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. The odor was very noticeable inside the house, Going outside, it caused immediate eye irritation. Thank you again for your time and consideration.
Next, we have Angela Dufresne.
That's the same letter you gave us, right? Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
That's all right, thank you. Thank you. I did get both your emails, too.
Hi, my name is Angela Dufresne. I'm a Fort Gratiot resident. I'm here tonight to talk about the adoption of the St. Clair County Master Plan. I spoke with Fort Gratiot Township treasurer today, not a treasurer, a trustee, and he was not aware that you guys are adopting the St. Clair County Master Plan. When I questioned him about the future land use in the St. Clair County Master Plan, he was also unaware of that. I read through the entire St. Clair County Master Plan, and I am really concerned with the idea of keeping all of the development for the next 27 years in the same communities that the development has been in the last 30 years. It specifically states in the master plan that all of the growth that we need to do in St. Clair County through 2050 can be achieved in the one area that includes Fort Gratiot, Port Huron, Marysville, St. Clair, Marine City, all of the most, developed areas. It also states in the master plan that the St. Clair River has been an area of concern for like 30 years. Why are we focusing our future growth right along the banks of the St. Clair River and Lake Huron in our master plan? I really have concerns with the master plan. I have concerns with the mention of smart cities, the mention of autonomous vehicles, and preparing for that when what we're seeing out there right now is it's not going so well. I know that it's a little bit late in the process. You guys approved it last month. I kind of wonder why more community members weren't asked for input, especially community members in the areas that you guys are expecting to support the growth for the entire county. For the rest of my life, basically. This goes through 2050. So I really, really wish that everybody would just take the time to think about this before adopting this as our county plan. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you. I have Susan Dieter Martin.
Hi, I'm Susan Dieter Martin, and I'm a Fort Gratiot resident. And I also object to some of the things I read in the county's master plan. There's a lot of opportunity in all of St. Clair County to have development, that it shouldn't be focused clearly along the lake. Smart cars and electric vehicles and charging stations, it's a push in our country with funding for that nationwide. But what they're finding out is smart cars that drive themselves kill people. Electric cars catch on fire, electric buses catch on fire. The services to support them, when 2% of the population may drive an electric vehicle, how much is the county going to sponsor facilities for that? Even the big three automakers are backing off because people don't want that. So why, as a county, would that be built into a master plan? Should we let the technology develop further before we make a financial commitment in our area? I oppose
some of the things in the plan, especially with the electric vehicles, charging stations, and the smart vehicles. Thank you.
Okay, so item 4, updates, which would be the landfill update. I know that Matt is here as well, and I don't know if any commissioners want to speak on.
I'd asked Carrie to put an update on, reference the meeting out at Kimball, and I'll just make some brief comments and turn over to Matt. I went to that meeting. It's not in my district, but I went there. There were 2 other commissioners that could made it to the meeting. You were one of them. I think Georgia was there. It was well attended. People from Eagle showed up. There were people in the audience. Mr. Felix was there. People from some national environmental groups and representatives, I understand, were there as well. Sierra Club, things like that. Much discussion, the public sentiment. I sent everyone an email. I'm not going to go over it. A lengthy email. Long and short of it is, after that meeting, I took it upon myself to look into it as best I could, and I put some substantial time into it. Met with Matt at the landfill, talked to the CTI engineers, spoke with Rob Usatowski from the township, other township citizens. I made it a point to do what I could, as well as gather as much information as I could to educate myself on the bioreactor, landfill gas migration, testing, all those things. It's all in the email I sent you. I satisfied myself that I know enough about it to make the recommendations that I made in my email. There were 5 of them. Now, I'll just briefly state what they were, and it's my intention to ask that they be placed on the full board for discussion next week and potentially for adoption. 1 was direct the staff to stop accepting Canadian trash effective January 1st. 3 of the contracts out of the 4 are expired. 1 expires in March. So don't take the trash in right now. Continue the moratorium on the septage. To me, the bioreactor is operating really well. It's making lots of gas, and we can't control it. The third thing was to provide some quantitative testing for drinking wells, and I've had information and different opinions on that, everything from advice from Corporation Counsel to different commissioners to people, citizens, and so forth, the medical director, some of those kinds of things. But I think it needs discussion, and I think it's necessary. So that's the third one, was to provide some quantitative testing for drinking water within 1,000 feet of the landfill. The 1,000 feet came from some discussions that our health department director had with the community, and that 1,000 feet would seem to be appropriate. This would include analytes for the components generally known to be associated with landfill leachate, landfill gas. I'm not suggesting there's a problem, but people ask for that, and to me it's just a decent thing to do so people know their well water's safe. I don't think it'd cost a lot, but in any regard, that's the third one that I'd like to discuss. The fourth one was to implement some testing for ambient air quality. St. Clair County landfill and on adjacent properties, we don't actually do that. It's kind of surprising, but I learned that we have monitoring and compliance for state and federal laws that require some testing, extraction well testing, different components of this system testing, but we don't do ambient air quality testing. And the devices that are available range from handheld devices that cost a few $100s to stationary devices that cost, $20,000. I have a son-in-law that works for waste management over at the Pine Tree Acres landfill, and I was in his car the other day, and he's got a device in his strap to him that's a man-down device. It does H2O levels, CO2 levels, all this stuff, so there's stuff available. And I talked to Matt about that. I said, yeah, our landfill guy wears one of those, so that if you get into a gas situation, it alerts you. And it's just, so the fourth one is written, and my motion will be based on the 4 that I submit in writing here, but do some testing for those analytes. The last one was some final cover. When I met at the landfill, I'd also looked at a lawsuit that occurred over at a landfill in Washtenaw County and got the consent judgment that was entered in the lawsuit with the AG's office, EPA, Eagle. It was fairly disastrous, but they did nothing, which is entirely different than what we did. That landfill was privately owned. They put profits before people. They didn't fix it. They got sued, and it was a substantial problem legally. So, but one of the components, and I used that in some of my information, was, are we doing this? Are we doing this? Are we doing this? And one of the things in there was a final cover issue they had, and I asked Matt about that, and he said, well, there was one area that has some deficiency note on a report, and I said, well, I think we should look at that too. So That's the least important of the 5, but those are the things that I think we should do right away for public health, to show the public that we care and we want to do that. I know there's some interest on the board. I've talked to some board members. We can talk more, hope to talk more through the week and discuss it further. One of the commissioners asked me, what makes you so smart about landfills? Well, I'm not saying I'm that smart, but I've done what I could to educate myself. I believe these are reasonable and necessary at this time, and I'd like you to consider it. And I think we need to do something at the full board meeting, the last in December, which is next, the 14th, and put these in place. If there's any other ideas from the community, from the board, landfill operator, CTI, I did send Dr. Felix's, or I guess Engineer Felix's information off to an individual from CTI that I'd met, the project manager, to look at that, say, what do you think about this? And she actually responded just before the meeting started in an email. She's looking at that, and she appreciated, obviously, the work he put into it. And then I gave her my suggestions, and she'd like to have some discussion about those. So maybe you can, I know, Jeff, you mentioned that as well. So that's where I'm coming from.
I would like to get a meeting together sooner than later, perhaps, with CTI. CTI has a tremendous amount of experience in landfills, obviously, Matt, some others. I'm not going to say we don't have an odor problem. We have been running the bioreactor for
15 years.
16,
15 or 16
I mean, when we
years.
first developed it, it was actually pre-developed, pre-me being on the board, and that's going on 20 years and stuff. And, I think, and we'll have Matt chit-chat a little bit here, but to get that meeting maybe set up next week. I'm not going to say any of your recommendations aren't bad, but the only thing that I would have a concern with that is I would tell you you're not a landfill expert.
I know,
think I told you.
I get it.
I mean, no, I'm not going to say that they wouldn't be, but I think that they're definitely worth sitting down with the people, asking the questions, so on and so forth.
I'm just asking, I'll make the motion at this time to submit those 5 to a full board for discussion. We may advance some, all, or none of them, but that's my motion. If it gets a second, I'd like that voted on and get that taken care of. That's my
Yeah.
motion.
You want to, any other, you want to go into the...
We need a second on his motion, potential, what you want.
After discussion, you would.
Well, you got to have a second before you can have a discussion, correct?
This is just a landfill update. Let's get the update.
You made a motion.
Well, perhaps it's out of order to make a motion at this time, but tonight I did want to make a motion at some point, either during the update or during new business or old business, or because Jeff initially
Yeah.
fit it in someplace. I did submit it in writing. It's brief, and you all got emails on it, so that's...
What I'll do is second it because we can vote on it. That doesn't mean I support it or not support it, but at least get a section of discussion. And now Matt can fill us in with more, and then we can have it on the agenda for next week. And whether we take any action at that time or not, maybe have your meeting, maybe talk with Steve and get some more information in the meantime. My concern is that this has been an issue, and I think we jumped right on it, spent a lot of money, and we're trying to do the best we can as fast as we can. But if there's health issues in regards to what's happening out there, we need to address it. And if we're going to have one more meeting this month, are we going to wait until January to take any action? So if there's something we can do, I'd like to at least discuss it. So that's where I'm coming from. Whether we take that action or not, but you got my second, and that's my concern. If we can potentially do something to help correct the situation of the landfill prior to January, maybe not all 5, maybe one of the 5, but something. If there's something we can do prior to, I think we should have that concern discussion. So let Matt take it away, I guess. It's your meeting. What?
We need to vote on the motion.
Okay.
It's not my meeting.
Oh,
Sorry.
Okay, do you want to do a roll call, or do you just want to do all in favor?
Voice vote.
Okay,
Aye.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Matt, it's all yours.
Thank you, Commissioners. I fully support sitting down and hashing out, considering Commissioner Samasco's recommendations. I have my own thoughts on that, which I won't go into now. But I would like to just kind of go through an update for you on what we've done and what we're doing and how things are progressing. Yes, we have an odor issue. We've had an odor issue for a number of months now. Quite honestly, for better or for worse, it took us by surprise. So our initial response to that was find out, number one, what's going on. Number two, we decided that the best thing we could do and what we need to do first and foremost is increase our collection capacity of our existing gas system. So we started taking steps to do that. We've regraded headers, we've modified wellheads to facilitate flow. We have reprogrammed in conjunction with our partner, Blue Water Renewables, how the main vacuum blower at the front of the facility runs, making sure that the flares are programmed to operate properly, and we've done all those things. And by doing all that, we increased the amount of gas collection from what was sitting about 1,200 CFM, cubic feet per minute, in July, when the serious odor issues, I believe, started, to over 1,500 CFM, so an additional 300 cubic feet per minute. And as we were going through that process, the odors didn't abate in the community. And we've had screenings on site, both by the regulators, Eagle. I have done, I not personally, I've contracted with company to do odor surveys along the surface of the landfill as well to identify hotspots and problem areas. Through that whole process, what we decided was, okay, it's apparent that fixing our existing system isn't going to go far enough. We might get there, we might not. So I opted and recommended to the board to bring in an additional second flare, which you are aware of, to provide additional robust vacuum right where it's most needed, in the cell 8 area where we believe most of the odors are emanating from. So the board approved that. We've got that flare in place. It's been running since November 9th. And that flare is processing somewhere between 350 to 450 cubic feet a minute of additional gas directly from the area that's the problem. So you add another 300 cubic feet or 400 to the totals we had before. We've increased our overall collection capacity and what we're actually monitoring significantly up into the 1,800 cubic feet per minute range.
So can I ask a quick question, Matt? So we probably only had the ability to flare X amount previously with our flare system, so the additional flare can handle the increase in additional gas.
We had plenty of capacity down at the bottom to flare what was going to show up. The issue was getting it there. So that flare was capable. The primary reason for the second flare was to provide robust vacuum to the wells in the area to enhance that extraction. But after, even now, as Mr. Felix observed, and I've had discussions with him, we've communicated on a fairly regular basis, and with other residents in the area, odors still persist. I have some indication that they've gotten a bit better, but on the other hand, I've had other people tell me it's still what it was. From our perspective on the landfill site, walking around, being on, driving around, doing our surveys in the immediate area, we believe a difference has been made. However, we do agree we still have persistent odors leaving the site. The nature of H2S, it doesn't take very much to irritate, as Mr. Felix described and others have described, your eyes, potentially nausea and all of that. So it doesn't take much to get there. So in addition to that flare, I recommended that we also install some additional infrastructure in the cell 8 area, more collection lines that we can hook up to that new flare to have enhanced collection where it's needed most. That contract was approved by the board last month. That project is underway. It's about 40% complete as of today. I'm hopeful that it will be done on or about the end of next week. That's of course weather dependent, and well, it's primarily weather dependent. That project is to install a perimeter collection trench. It's a perforated pipe and a gravel pack down in the waste along the edge where it drains into the drainage layer if water condensate accumulates. So that work is underway. Since we have had a few rain days, the contractor is even planning on working on Sunday this week. They understand the urgency we have to get this installed and get this operational. I might add that it's our intention to start collecting gas from this trench even before it's completed. We have the ability, the way we designed and constructed this, that we're able to do that as we go. So that's our plan. I did some work this week to research ambient air meters that would measure H2S. Commissioner Samasco mentioned that basically a alarm meter that his son wears. That's the meter that he wears, and our vendors, contractors, and our landfill staff who work out there wear is a meter where it's a danger meter. If you have an alarm, you need to remove yourself from the area because the levels are significantly higher than what would merely cause an irritation. But those meters read down to about 1 part per million, or maybe even only as low as 10 part per million, depending upon the type of the meter that we're talking about. Those are the $100 to $200 meters that Commissioner Samasco referred to. To understand to detect down to the part per billion, where you can identify what those health effects are. It's pretty well documented through the CDC, through OSHA, through MyOSHA, through NIOSH, what those effects are and what you need to, what can happen at very, very low part per billion concentrations of hydrogen sulfide. And that's the primary problem here that residents are subject to. So we've just ordered today a rental meter that does read down to 3 part per billion. That meter should arrive next week. And I have also at the same time reached out to an engineering firm, Tetra Tech, who does air monitoring plans and does air monitoring on a regular basis at different sites and for different clients. So this is part of their job description. So they're pulling together a proposal to send to me as we speak with some preliminary plans for us addressing ambient air concentrations. Did you have a question?
Well, I was going to make a comment because this is something that Commissioner Rushing had brought up. So our next meeting for the year is next week. And I think if things come up, we could direct our administrator in an emergency situation, give her the ability to just, spend the money deemed necessary to take care of this, because I don't want to get caught up in all the contractual, okay, now it's another 30 days before it comes to us. Those times things, I think that would be a prudent, measure that we could put in place instead of.
Well, with the Canadian trash potentially and.
I'm not talking Canadian trash. Let's talk about, so we're not going to get together. So our next meetings, so what if there is a $30,000 issue that comes up on December 21st? Matt needs to pull the trigger. And then you got to say, you got to
What does our
come.
policy provide for, maybe Mr. Fletcher can tell us, I'm not sure how that would work. If something comes up on an emergency basis, what can you just spend funds? I don't know how you do that.
So under your policy, I do have the ability to authorize emergency purchases, outside of the policy level. I would certainly inform the board, but we do have the ability to go forward. So if something did come up, I agree with Commissioner Bohm. I would prefer not to wait 3 weeks to address it. I would like to be able to address it as soon as possible.
But I would tell you this too, I talked to Liz King and I talked to Dr. Remington also, and Dr. Remington was out of state at the time, but he sent me a nice email putting in context what these part per billions and all this is, 1 teaspoon in an Olympic-sized swimming pool, and some of these, quote, pollutants that are common components of landfill gas are no different than the exhaust out of certain cars. So it's not really an alarm situation, and we do have, I think the health department, the gist I got of it is they certainly are available to advise us on how some of that fits together. So we do have some internal resources as well. So if we get some testing and look at it, and I'm fairly confident from what I've heard from Dr. Remington, that we can look at that and we have people on staff that can tell us, hey, you know, borderline, this is an issue or not an issue. So I felt pretty good about all of that. And then now we have ability to react quickly to whatever occurs.
And two, if we shut down taking all the trash, whether it be Canadian, whether it be American, whether it be septic, that problem's not going away, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, it takes 3 years for the degradation when it kicks into the bioreactor.
We've seen the degradation occurring in the active bioreactor cells as quickly as about 1 year, actually.
My point being, if we didn't take 1 ounce of trash from today moving forward, that odor issue is not going away.
I'd like to address that though, Jeff. That's an argument, but Canadian trash is less than 10% of our income volume, and it's a third of our volume volume.
I'm not arguing any of that, Steve. I'm just saying if we took no trash, I'm talking if we took all the trash and sent St. Clair County's trash somewhere else, if we...
We're not suggesting that. I was yeah.
The odor's not going away.
No, that comports with what I've learned is that it takes 3 to 4 years for this stuff to, see, we're bioreactor is a research permit. There's no other bioreactor in the country to compare it to. So that's with leachate injection, not septic injection. So with septic, I think Matt's probably correct. It just juices that thing right up. Just imagine, and it's percolating. And to me, we don't need the juice, just hold on. We're not going to, this board I know is not going to put profits over people. We're not doing that. I've never got any indication from any commissioner or anyone that would ever happen. So that's the point on the trash. We don't need it. It's filling up our landfill. Yes, it's a hit, $1 million a year in Canadian trash. That's a hit on a landfill that makes $11 million. Well, we'll survive, and we have a problem, and it shows good faith to the community. I just think it's really reasonable to do that, and we can flip the switch back on if we want, but I just don't see the propriety of taking Canadian trash at this time when we don't need it and we have a problem. That's how I address that.
So back to the air monitoring that I was discussing. Speaking with the folks at Tetra Tech, there'll be different options we can do. We're considering maybe stationary monitors on the perimeter that would read continuously or on a short interval and do that for a period of time. Correlate that with wind data. We can do out in the community on a regular basis at all times of day. I know that these odors persist and are much stronger in general from sunset to sunrise. The daytime makes a difference.
A question for you, Matt. Do you feel comfortable making those decisions? Because the types of devices and the need, the level and all that, I'm not able to do that. The board's not able to individually do that. We're going to rely on you or perhaps the engineers or otherwise. Would you make that decision on?
Well, the instrument that we're renting is used by Eagle themselves. Okay. To do air
you're able to make. You're able to make.
Also recommended by the contract.
Yeah, we don't need consultants to do that. You know what you need for that, and you're doing it. Yeah. You're able to. That's my question.
We need to get down to part per billion, and that's not going to take away any odors. Don't get me wrong. But what it's going to do, hopefully, is tell us what the scope of the issue is, and hopefully be able to monitor progress in our corrective actions. And number two, if we're able to, in the moment, go and meet with a resident who's smelling the odor, who has the complaint, we can go with that meter, measure the levels, and if nothing else, assure them that it's not up to the level where it's
health exposure
impacting health for the long term, that it is, an acute issue as opposed to a chronic issue. The odor neutralization system that the board authorized is now physically all constructed in place. The machine that creates the vapor and pushes it out into our piping system is there. All it needs, we're waiting on a disconnect for the power, and it's hopeful if that comes in tomorrow, we can have that up and fired up and running tomorrow. And I will inform the board once it's up and running, what it does, how it works, and how useful it's going to be. Another thing that was recommended by Kimball Township, by Supervisor Yuzikowski, was that we contract with an outside engineering firm to take a look at what we have going on. I've got a recommendation on an item here later on this agenda to contract with a company called Environmental Information Logistics, to essentially review what we have going on, take a look at our system, and make recommendations for improvements to our current system. So that, I believe, is on the order of $22,000, that agreement, and it's on the agenda, and I would ask that we have final action on that tonight, if you would grant me that, so that we can get them on board and working sooner rather
So
than
this
later.
this is a consultant that's going to review what's going on independent of CTI, right? Our engineer, our landfill
Yes,
engineer.
there will have to be some back and forth.
That's
for
fine. No,
informational purpose and all that. But
so this is a secondary level of oversight by a third party that's requested by the
This gentleman was
township.
not involved with the original design in any way, shape, or form. So it's a whole fresh set of eyes on what we have and what we need to do to improve.
How did you choose that? How did you make that decision for that company?
Primarily, I know of this gentleman who works for this company who's been in industry for 35 years. He's got a resume that's about 16 pages long, and he's done the gamut from system design to...
He's a well-recognized expert, well-recognized expert that you're recommending.
Absolutely.
So you're asking for a motion at this time and then approval?
It's on the,
Well, it's on the agenda.
Oh, it's on the agenda, okay.
It's coming. I just wanted to mention it during my update here. Looking, and one thing that has just come up in the last couple days, the persistence of the odors leaving the landfill. Again, we're making progress, but we're not there. So there's more than just, I believe, that's going to take care of this problem than improving the gas collection itself. One thing that I'm looking into and considering is bringing in some material of an organic nature. There may be an avenue for that, to actually place it on the cell 8 area and act as essentially a biofilter. What that would essentially do is intercept those H2S molecules, neutralize them, absorb them, to help keep them from going to atmosphere. So that's very preliminary and very early, but I want you to know that that's another item that we're working on to augment what we're doing. As far as programmatically, we have already instituted internally a more robust well-field monitoring program. We are checking vacuums, we're checking gas quality, we're checking critical points on a much more frequent basis. We are also reviewing with Blue Water Renewables their data set and what the main gas skid is doing, all in a manner to be able to recognize any anomalies or abnormalities quicker. Because what we've been doing historically is operating our gas system so that we're in regulatory compliance, so that we don't create odors in the neighborhood, and that our gas plant has sufficient gas to run those engines and make that electricity. That shift has to change because something has happened now that we were not prepared for. So the idea is internally we're changing from regulatory monitoring and compliance with a more performance-based approach for our gas system now and in the future. That's more proactive, I believe, and will allow us to see things. The state standards don't necessarily need to be our standards. If we have higher standards, higher requirements, then we're going to pursue that. So we're in the process of developing that performance-based internal model. I just wanted to make you aware of that as well. I guess that's about all I have for an update. I appreciate the board's consideration. I appreciate citizens' input on what they're seeing, what they're hearing. Mr. Felix, all the work that you've done, the health department, everyone is pitching in and working and looking to resolve this sooner rather than later. So I appreciate that.
One more comment, Joy, if I could.
Yeah.
The one other piece that concerned me was the regulation. Under the administrative rules, all that's required to violate, we've received 4 notices of violation officially from Eagle, which you have to respond to, which we've done. I've reviewed those notices, which are technical and they're legal documents. I've reviewed our responses prepared essentially by CTI. My concern was that, you know, these are clear violations.
Talking to the mic, I can't hear you.
These are clear violations. These are clear violations that, if not addressed, will end up in an enforcement action. And we're way different than some of the other things I've looked at. But by doing these things proactively, I think we can avoid enforcement action, address public health, and not have to worry about, you know, further involvement with some type of enforcement. And I think that's really important. It changes the whole nature of what goes on when that happens. So, thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you
Steve.
very much.
Okay. Anything else from any other commissioners?
I guess I do have a question, and maybe it's for Matt or Dr. Nevin or Liz. You talk about a partnership between the health department and the landfill. What does that look like? How are we educating the residents about what's going on? I appreciate that you said you were going to potentially go to their homes to monitor their air quality, but what happens with the results? How are those communicated to the residents? Are we tracking those? I mean, obviously not, they haven't happened yet, but what does that plan look like?
That hasn't happened yet. We're working out what those protocols are going to be. And that's going to be a big part of what Tetra Tech is working with us for, and the proposal for a monitoring plan.
Mm-hmm.
Additional to what they're going to prescribe, which is going to focus on certain points, then I am very open and want to go to the point source. With respect to our interplay with the health department, we've had a couple discussions and been in some meetings together. They've been pretty helpful with reassuring on the low levels of H2S, what that means for people who smell it. So the interplay is not fully established at this point. I fully intend to bring them in on an action plan or a monitoring plan for air monitoring and make sure they're a part of that and they're on board with what we do, and we'll see who does what and when. But I don't have that answer for you today.
No crystal ball.
I'm sorry?
No crystal ball tonight.
I'm sorry, not on that one.
All right, well, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Anybody else with any questions? Okay, moving on to item 5, conceptual initiatives. None tonight. Seeing no old business, we'll move to new business. No, I'm sorry, we're gonna move to item 7, which is a closed session. So the board is gonna go into a closed session to discuss some pending litigation.
Need a motion to go into closed session? I'll make that motion.
Second.
And would you prefer a roll call on this? Okay. Thank you. May I have a roll call?
Commissioner Samasco?
Yes.
Commissioner Beeden?
Yes.
Commissioner Bohm?
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrell?
Yes.
We're going to go into closed session, then we're going to come back out and continue business.
Do you have an
after
approximate
we're done.
time you think this might take?
10 minutes.
Okay. Works Committee meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Gary. Moving on to new business, item 8A, Resolution 2337, the adoption of St. Clair County Master Plan.
Lindsay, we got Lindsay in attendance here. Maybe she can talk a little bit about process, I guess, for the master plan.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here to ask for, request the adoption of the county master plan. At last month's planning commission meeting, we had a public hearing, and then they went ahead and adopted the plan. The county master plan is reviewed and updated every 5 years. It's a long-term vision for the county. It's a policy document that guides growth, change, and development, and it's a basis of planning for all the rest of the county.
So it's 5 years, every update on it. So when you say it's till 2050, it's not technically till 2050.
No, but that's what we look at for our forecast and things like that. We will revisit and do it again in 5 years. Things change, you know, plans, themes, goals, objectives all change regularly. So we'll look at it and do it again in 2024, or no, this is 2024. So 2026, 27 is when we'll be back again.
And where do you get the input for the master plan? Where does that come from?
So we had a lot of opportunity for public engagement. We had various surveys and different focus groups. We had a public online engagement tool. We had 3 public visioning sessions. We give the document to all the local municipalities to have for review for their boards and also for the public that come into there. That started this spring and went all through the summer, and here we are.
So it does go out to each individual municipality, township, village for input, then it comes back to you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, I do. Because I serve as vice chair on the planning commission in Riley, and I've been involved with Riley Township as supervisor since 2004 through today. There were some concerns earlier about zoning concerns and where potential building will be taking place, whatever it is, industrial or whatever that potentially. The county only has control over county property. So to say that we want to potentially look at Riley Township, because that's where I live, or anything in District 6, you have no authority over that anyways, as far as the planning for local municipalities, the 31. So if the city of Port Huron, Marysville, or wherever are on board with that, and I know you look at their zoning to help your master plan, that your master plan will blend in with everybody else's master plan. In fact, you guys assist us in Riley. We're working on another one. I've been involved with the last 4 in Riley, and you guys do a fantastic job, so appreciate working with you. So the misconception that, at least, I don't know if that's the right word, that the zoning and building within the county, you don't control that unless it's on county property itself.
Correct. Yeah, all the local zoning and development, all that goes through their own review process. Like you said, planning commission and their board. We do review it just to make sure it's consistent with all of our plans and their plans, but we don't regulate that, if you will.
And just because I serve on the planning commission, we send everything to you for recommendations. We don't have to take your recommendations. We can still make our master plan for Riley, but I can't think of an instance where we didn't take your recommendations, because it really does assist our board, because you got a lot more expertise than the board members we have.
Thank you.
I got a question. It's okay. So on Dave's point, because I'm not really familiar with the process, so when you have the townships or municipalities and you have the master plan, does the master plan make an attempt to coordinate with those local plans or not really, or do they, how does that work?
I mean, we like to see coordination, obviously, amongst all the locals, but there's no written rule that we have to. But all of our plans that we make and develop, transportation, all sorts of things, we like to try to make sure it meshes.
It wouldn't make a lot of sense to plan for things in a community that they don't want.
Correct.
So you look at that, and
Oh, yeah.
hopefully it all works kind of together. Is that right, Dave? Kind of?
Yeah, what we do in Riley is we'll go to Wales Township, Berlin Township, our closest neighbors. So we got pretty much everybody's got the same plans for it. You wouldn't want to have heavy industrial right next to us that we would oppose. So you try to play nice with your neighbors, and they get a chance to review our master plan. And it is required by the Michigan State Constitution every 5 years. You either renew it, you can rubber stamp saying we don't need any chances, or you make minor changes, or if necessary, you make major changes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Lindsay?
Welcome, Lindsay. It's good to have you in the role.
Thank you. I make the motion for the adoption.
For final action, Jeff, or should I go to full board?
Go to full board.
Yeah, it's for the full board.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, the resolution 2336, pledging the full faith credit for Kerrigan and Grace Drain, District Drain Bonds, Series 2024.
Make a motion to send to full board.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item C, contract approval request for the Pearson Pit Trucking Incorporated. This is landfill material and delivery.
Motion to send that to the full board.
Thank you.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item D, Resolution 2338, the North Channel County Park property acquisition. This is for final action.
Make that motion.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Just a little bit. I think this is going to be fantastic. I do believe that you're going to need a roll call vote on it.
Yeah, it's really the last piece of the missing puzzle, per se, down there, so it'll be great.
Good. Good. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Samasco?
Yes.
Commissioner Beeden?
Yes.
Commissioner Bohm?
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrell?
Yes. Item E, this is what Matt was discussing on. He asked for a final action.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Support.
Okay, so this is item E, the contract approval request for the Smith Creek Landfill Consulting Services with Environmental Information Logistics. So for final action, can we have another roll call?
Just one quick comment. I think it was pretty clear that we heard earlier that the board obviously knows about the problems at the landfill. We want to take care of those problems, and I think we somewhat gave administration direction if they need to do emergency spend, if things come up, take care of it. Obviously, she'll let us know what we do, but I don't want to have to wait 3 weeks if we have any.
Evidently policy in place. I'm sure the administrator knows how to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, yep, very good.
Do we need a number on that? Do we have to not to exceed or any of that business? No?
He has that emergency authority under policy.
But I mean, on this one we're
This is
voting
the-
on,
I
for
will
final
include
action.
it.
Pardon me?
I'll include it.
Okay, because I think Matt mentioned it. Thank you.
Good now?
Pardon me?
Good now? Commissioner Samasco?
Yes.
Commissioner Beeden?
Yes.
Commissioner Bohm?
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing?
Yes.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch?
Yes.
Commissioner Terrell?
Yes, thank you. Item F, contract approval request. This is the landfill office cleaning services with Janitize It LLC.
Make a motion.
Second.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Don't see anything for the activities report. Item 10, other environmental public works matters. I don't see any this evening. May I have a motion to receive and file packet?
You need a motion at number 9 first to receive and file the Smith Creek landfill activities reports? You
No,
don't?
there were none included. There were none included.
Okay. Then do you need a motion for filing the monthly park financial documents?
I'm not there yet.
It's information only, is that? I don't know.
I'm on number 10.
Yes.
Other,
I'll make that motion.
Second. You're talking on number 11.
Number 11.
For information only, yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, number 12, receive and file packets.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
This time, I'd like to call the Ways and Means Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Samasco,
Present?
Commissioner Baldwin, Commissioner Beeden,
Present.
Commissioner Bohm,
Here.
Commissioner Trello,
Here.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch,
Here.
Commissioner Rushing.
Here. Item 2, can I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. I have no citizens wishing to be heard. We have no updates, no conceptual
Just
initiatives.
one quick update, but I'm going to defer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm going to defer to Commissioner Vanden Bosch on this. I've been talking to him about the radio situation. I had some interest in the areas that I represent, Kimball Fire, St. Clair Fire, St. Clair Police Department for the radios. I know that, Dave, you had said that the fire's still looking at it.
Yes.
You were comfortable moving forward with the police piece of it?
But we're slowing it way down. We've got a big meeting next week on Wednesday with the Criminal Justice Association.
Slowing down both pieces?
Well, fire is going to be slowed down until we can get 100% involvement. Right now, we don't have that, so that process is actually on hold, but we're going to start with the law enforcement.
Okay.
And most of them are in place. We still have some radios that need some replacement, but we're going to move forward at a little slower pace. And Tina at Central Dispatch has got a study being done by the state of Michigan yet to make sure the system's going to handle everything the way they want to build it will work.
So when you go to that criminal justice meeting, because for example, Chief Raker in St. Clair, I talked to him, I've been communicating with him, and I said, I have no problem, with, taking some of my funds, helping you with the radios. I just need to, I guess you give me the green light
Yes.
when the time
Yeah,
is ready.
well, like I said, we want to get everybody in the same room on Wednesday, and we didn't have Yale, we didn't have KPAC and Memphis at the last meeting. I've also had Richmond invited because they're going to do backup for a lot of our responders on the very west edge. Richmond's going to be coming, and so is New Baltimore and Chesterfield, to make sure we don't have we've got good interoperability between the departments before we do anything, because Macomb hasn't gone to encryption yet. They are looking into it, but like I said, they're still in the planning phases, and we probably should plan together since we work together.
Yep, good, thank you.
Any other updates? All right, we have no conceptual initiatives, no old business. Moving on to 7A, contract approval, equalization, aerial imagery, Eagle View, and Wolpert Incorporated.
I'll make a motion, send that to the full board.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Well, I'm looking at it, it's pretty substantial cost, $322,455. Looks like you're going to potentially collecting 50% of it from 25 municipalities with 6 out. Hopefully they'll get on board also. It's a tool that obviously we use quite a bit. If you want to look at something in the county, you can zoom right in on it, and this will update that. So it's a 6-year process.
Justin's here too, if anybody has questions.
I think I'm explaining it pretty good. But, does anybody want Justin to come up and explain it better?
Doing a fine job, Dave.
Okay. Yeah, we've had this in the past, and just an upgrade, and going to do an aerial of the entire county, so it'll really assist. Okay, we have a first and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7B, contract approval, email encryption solution with Cisco.
Make a motion to move it to full board.
Support.
All right, this one is a total of $71,280. Any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Oh, I'll ask, just to add, even though, this is getting paid out of ARPA funds, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. 7C, Manning Table Additions, Assistant Director of Nursing and Planning, Promotion, and Evaluations Director.
Make a motion to move it to full board.
Support.
Any discussion?
Yeah, question. Carrie, maybe you can briefly explain that. For our Manning table, I know there's policy on reclassifications and so forth. How do these end up in front of us? Is that something that department heads do, or do you do that, or both, or?
So the requests are initiated from the department based on an operational need, and then they come before you because it is a change to their authorized manning table, and in some cases, a change to their budget.
Does that, when a person wants a Manning table change or reclassification, does the department head submit that directly to the board, or do they have to go through approval or something to get to the board?
So it actually does go through quite a process. They go through human resources, wages are evaluated if it's not an existing position, union contracts are evaluated, made sure we have proper job descriptions, and then it goes to finance for costing to make sure that it's something that's affordable within the budget or we have funds to allocate, and then it comes before you.
Okay, I was actually approached by a department head on that, so I didn't know the answer. So, but any request by a department head for reclassification or Manning table adjustment, regardless of what admin does with it, would end up for us to look at, or it does not come here unless you move it on?
So it doesn't come unless we move it on. If we get a request that is something that should be collectively bargained, let's say they want to just adjust everyone's wages, they think they should be paid a different wage, that has to be collectively bargained if it's a union employee. However, if you have, like in this case.
So that's more of like a reclassification, or?
No,
or could be
that's
both?
more of a wage or a equity adjustment.
Okay.
You know, they might want to call it a reclassification sometimes, but they're looking to take employee A and they think employee A should make a different wage based on market
The
studies.
sense I got of it was if employees are kind of maxed out, and they want to get the ability to get the annual increase plus maybe a step increase, they're trying to, that kind of a thing. Is that a negotiation or a bargaining, or is that a Manning table deal? Or both?
So it would be a Manning table adjustment. Let's say you have a clerk 1 that they feel they should be a clerk 2. Their job duties are evaluated to ensure, just being in a job for 20 years doesn't automatically mean you should get extra steps. It would be dependent on that person's job duties.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7D, IT Services Agreement between Oakland County and the County of St. Clair.
Make a motion.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7E, 2024 Board of Commissioners meeting schedule.
Motion.
Second.
And
Any
obviously,
discussion?
there can be some tweaks, as it arises.
Right. As we always do, if there happens to be a traveling, we might make adjustments in the summer, timeframes as required. So that's.
You left out deer season. You left out deer season.
We actually did
Oh,
make
did you?
sure
Okay,
that
all
it
right.
does not coincide.
All right,
National
I'm not a
holiday,
deer
man.
hunter, but, all right.
Hoo-hoo.
I believe we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7F, contract approval, ARPA Consultant LSI Business Development Incorporated.
Make a motion to move that to full board.
Support.
Any discussion? I just have one, of course, with the monies that I'm going to be directing directly to the Road Commission. When they have Carrie, do they have to spend the money first, then they'll send, let's say it's ABC Culvert someplace, and it's $100,000. They'll send the report to you with the expenditures and making sure that it's in compliance with the ARPA Clean Water Act. Once they do that, then you'll forward the money back to the Road Commission, or how's that going to work?
So in this case, what we would want to happen is prior to them spending any money, they'll have to do the subrecipient agreement. The consultant will review the proposal, make sure it's valid. But then, yes, the Road Commission would then spend the money, submit the paperwork to us for reimbursement.
Yeah, because I'll be talking to Bill Hazelton on this, and just want to make sure I got my ducks in a row. Jim Anders from IRA also talked to me on this, so, Just
Any
to,
forward
so I can
we
follow up on that, so this subrecipient agreement, when someone, a municipality or township wants to use these monies, they would sign the subrecipient agreement, and then they can't move on unless our consultant says that qualifies for ARPA. Is that kind of how that's going to work?
So they would, if they have a project, they'll work with the consultant, they'll explain the project, the consultant will say, yes, it does qualify, and then they can go forward with the subrecipient agreement. I would work with the
So like,
consultant first,
With
so.
Dave's example, okay, so Dave gives the money to the road commission, they have some project they want, it doesn't automatically happen, they have to get basically a green light from the consultant before it goes through for fulfillment.
Yeah, that's correct. So what will happen is the consultant will review it to make sure it complies with ARPA, and then the subrecipient agreement would come before this Board of Commissioners for approval
And if our
for that
consultant-
project.
If our consultant's agreement is that it doesn't qualify and you agree, then we would not fund that.
That's correct.
Thank you.
I talked with Joe Stevens, supervisor of Casco, today, and Bill Hazelton did a very good job. He got the complete report for all 6 townships and the city of Memphis, potential projects, and he's working with every township, every supervisor. And his list and Joe Stevens just happened to match 100% exactly what Joe wanted. So I did ask Bill to get the initial one, and they can always adjust as needed. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7G, Commissioner Vandenbosch, District 7, American Rescue Plan Project, MCAFA, fire hose and radios equipment.
Make motion, send to full board.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7H, Contract Award, William Vogan Associates, Judge Armstrong Courtroom renovations.
Make a motion to move that to full board.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7I, Contract Approval, Administration Security Camera Installation, DA Central.
Make a motion to move that to full board.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Moving on to item 8. Do we have any other Ways and Means Matters at this time? Yes, Steve?
Question for Carrie. I noticed we had, as Commissioner Beeden pointed out, lots of paper here today. I'm assuming that has something to do with our new system of agendas maybe, or, I looked at it, I've been on it, it seems to be pretty snappy, but are we doing something different or anything?
No, this was just because of the new agenda conversion, you know, it's our hope to not provide all this paper
Right.
unless someone specifically requests it.
I specifically requested for myself because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to download it. It worked very easy for me, and I don't want all this paperwork again because that's quite a bit
So
of paperwork.
it's Commissioner Rushmore's fault, is what you're saying? Rushmore.
Correct.
Any other Ways and Means Matters? All right, information only, none. Can I have a motion to receive and file packets?
So move, or not?
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.